Men's soccer finds themselves as the number 3 seed in the A10 tournament. What is happening? Hello, I'm Selena Bemek.
And I'm Jake Smolinski. Men's basketball shows some serious promise out in the court versus the Canuck champions Carleton for their first exhibition game of the season. We got footage. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. We had 2 senior days this past week. One exceeded expectations, the other just plain bummed us out. Don't worry, we'll explain.
And later, we have some serious coverage and the inside scoop coming at you for our men's and women's basketball seasons. Who's Pookie Powell and why does his name sound so good to say while you're eating a donut? You're about to find out.
But first, let's take a look at what went down this past week for our athletes. Men's golf competed at the City 6 Championship, their last event of the fall season, at the Huntington Valley Country Club. The team as a whole shot .312 at the championship to finish 6th. The Explorers were led by freshman Evan Geiser, who shot a 3 over par 73 to tie for 5th out of 30 players. Geiser carded 3 birdies in his round, including 2 over the first 4 holes. Geiser finished 3 strokes behind medalist Ame Puria of Penn, who registered an even par 70. Senior Joe Markman finished behind Geiser with a 78 of his own to tie for 20th. The Explorers will now have the winter off to work on their game, as their spring season doesn't start until March.
Yep. And then over the weekend, the men's water polo team participated in the Mid-Atlantic Water Polo Conference West Regional Championship, and the team concluded their inaugural season with a loss to Connecticut College, which knocked them out of the MAW-PC tournament, and the Blue and Gold were defeated by the Camels 19-9. Freshman Alex Pitcher scored a team-high 3 goals in the game. Freshman Joey DeFusco, Johan Orozco, and Joel Gibson scored 2 goals each, and Jeff Brady posted up 2 assists and drew 3 kickouts. On defense, freshman Jacob Klingsberg made 7 blocks. LaSalle scored first in the game. Unfortunately, they could not hold on to that lead, and CC dominated the pool for the rest of the game. The Camels outscored LaSalle 10-3 in the first half and 9-6 in the second. The Camels scored 7 goals in the second quarter alone, while LaSalle scrapped just 1 goal in the second.
And on Sunday, previously defeated Monmouth came back with a vengeance. In one of 2 consolation games, LaSalle could not hold things down, even with Alex Pitcher's 4 goals. With just a deficit of 2 goals, the Explorers fell to Monmouth, 13-11. Then 2 losses deep in one day, the Explorers could not go home and lick their wounds because they had to verse Washington and Jefferson later that day. Previously, the Presidents defeated the Explorers in a bloodbath, 22-13. Things were just as brutal for the Explorers this time around, dropping 23-6.
And with 5 days to rest between their matchup against George Mason and their contest against St. Louis, women's volleyball hope to recuperate and get back to their winning ways. Sadly, the Billikens were an A10 demagogue this year, shout out Stranger Things, and were not willing to roll over easily. In fact, St. Louis was more than unwilling. They vehemently, I hate that word, the night of loss to LaSalle, cruising to a commanding straight set victory over the Blue and Gold by a combined 26-point margin over 3 sets. The Explorers were held to a .296 hitting percentage in the match, unable to penetrate the Billiken wall that knocked down 12 blocks.
2 days later, on November 6th, the team welcomed the Dayton Flyers to the Tom Gola Arena for their final home game of the season. Prior to the match, Phoebe Cook and Ashley Felton were honored in the senior day ceremony with their families. However, it didn't turn out to be the senior send-off that the women were hoping for, as LaSalle lost in straight sets for the 11th time this season. The lone bright spot in this game for the Explorers was their 5 service aces against Dayton's 3. Ashley Felton added 4 blocks in her final home game, while Jensen Sharretts dug 17 balls. The volleyball team will play its final regular season match against the Duquesne Dukes on November 12th.
And men's basketball had their season opening exhibition at the Gola on Saturday, November 5th. SportsLine reporter Steven Silvestro took to the floor with the camera to capture the game. And first of all, this is LaSalle versus the #1 Canadian team at the moment. Carleton has a vicious history of shocking the system of D1 teams, and this was going to be a wild ride. Let's just roll into the video. So the men's basketball team played an exhibition game against Carleton, and they honestly came into a 12-1 record in exhibition games this year, including a bid against Wichita State. The teams played evenly until the 13th minute after a beautiful Jordan Price three-pointer, and which started a 17-3 run for the Explorers. There you can see it right there. And once again, you can take a look at Jordan Price with the hook to B.J. Johnson. And once again, B.J. Johnson right there just draining in. A new guy for the Explorers, one of the transfers from Cuse, and he's really pulling it together. He's got me excited. But once again, here you go, one of the other transfers, and JP right there, nice layup, and to BJ Johnson. I was very, very impressed. And you know what? Junior Johnson showed Explorer fans exactly what they wanted to see and exactly what he's made of, because you know what? Solid offensive and defensive game. It was great. But the thing is, the biggest question of that day was going to be who was going to be the starting five for the team. And you know what? For the opening game against this, we had Pookie Powell, Cleon Roberts, Amar Stukes, Demetrius Henry, and B.J. Johnson. And basically, it just looked like Janiti unleashed these guys after their redshirt year. And you had, B.J. Johnson Cuse, you had Pookie Powell, all those guys. These guys were all waiting out, and people have been so excited. What do you think about that opening lineup? Jordan Price didn't even come in until later in the game.
Well, I spoke to Coach Giannini earlier this year, and I asked him about his 5 returning starters, and the way he looks at it, no one's a starter. So you ask, who's your starting 5? That's not guaranteed at this point in the season. And they're coming in with their first game against Temple on the road, and honestly, no one knows who is going to be the starting 5. Jordan Price, who averaged 27 points, the team high last year, is coming off the bench. Yep. So it's all up in the air. It's in question. And
I think it's going to be mostly solidified once we see what happens at Temple, to be honest, because it's an exhibition game, but I'm intrigued.
Me too.
All right. And let me set the stage for you. Men's soccer had already solidified their place in the A10 tournament. They toppled St. Joe's in a 3 unanswered goal comeback. They sat in the lower half of the seating for the tournament, and a loss, it doesn't dethrone us, but for us to take down number 2 against number 2 UMass in the final regular season match, senior day I might add, would place us in the top half of the A10 rankings. So on Saturday, November 5th, the Explorers welcomed the UMass Minutemen to McCarthy Stadium for the chance to turn the tide even more in our favor. And the match started with a LaSalle onslaught led by Johnny Cerlante, Connor Nichols, and Matt Robinson, outshooting UMass 21-8 throughout the match. And the goal that we needed for the win came in the form of a throw-in from Zach Rutherford in the 31st minute. Matt Robinson finessed his way through the mob and somehow found his way to the back of the net for the decisive goal. And LaSalle never let up as well. Goalie Mike Kirk notched his 15th career shutout with 6 comfortable saves, and the Explorers cruised to an upset win for a regular season record of 5-3 in the A10.
The win against UMass moved the Explorers up to the 3rd seed in the A10 tournament rankings, a solid place to be in. The Explorers are set to face off against number 6 Rhode Island in the first round. Earlier in the season, LaSalle beat out the Rams with a 2-1 win. However, this doesn't assure that they'll be able to headbutt the Rams back to Rhode Island. With how tight the A10 teams are this season, no squad can get comfortable. The tournament starts down in Davidson, North Carolina on Thursday, November 10th. Oh boy.
Yeah. So this left me though with a lot of questions, and I am really, really excited for this. So honestly, question number 1 is, who's going to be in goal? We've been kind of switching out throughout the season, kind of randomly. Do we have Mike Kirk, Cameron Keys? Who's going to start?
I personally think it's going to be Mike Kirk. He's in a senior season. Cameron Keys is only a sophomore. He's only started a couple games this season. Mike Kirk has, I think, 5 shutouts this season so far already. He just got his last one, and I think he's the hot hand at the moment, and I think Coach has got to go Kirk.
Yeah, honestly, I think that probably makes sense. But the thing is, every time that Cameron Keys came in, it didn't necessarily make sense. But I think, yeah, you're probably right. It's Mike Kirk's senior season, and he's just been a really reliable goaltender for us. So, I'm excited to see what happens with that. But my number 2 question, is Matt Robinson going to keep up the momentum? And the thing is, he started off so strong in the beginning of the season. He had the passion, he had the drive. Then there was a middle gap where it just felt like nothing he was doing was connecting. But now, as it's kind of winding down, he's kind of bookending his season. But is that going to translate?
I think it will. I think Matt Robinson, if he can keep his momentum going into the postseason, he can perform outstandingly for the Explorers. Right now he's tied for the team lead in goals with 5 goals this season, and if he can keep that going, it'll be great in the playoffs.
Yeah. And that brings me, though, to another one. What about Sixtus? You know, Sixtus, this guy, he had his breakout game, came out with 2 goals. And the thing is, I'm really curious to see if, I think what Sixtus kind of represents is the fact that the men's team is really creating a ton of opportunities. Right. Like, especially with just how many shots like these guys are rattling off, and just even against UMass, the number 2 seeded team, who they were definitely good. This was a huge, even decisive match for them. But for them to only get 8 shots while we shot 21, that is a huge moment for us. And I think that Sixtus kind of represents all the guys on the team that have been ripping those shots, keeping that offensive hustle, and really controlling the midfield. So
yeah, Sixtus adds a lot of depth to this team that you don't see on the surface in numbers. But
yeah, I like that. Yeah, and then that brings me though to another one. Is Ciarlatti finally going to score? He is consistently shooting so much.
I think he leads the team in scoring, or not in scoring, I'm sorry, in shots.
Yes.
But I think maybe in the playoffs, if he can get the right things going for him, he might be able to connect and score.
Yeah, no, totally. So thank you that was a lovely breakdown right there of the men's soccer team going into the A10 championship tournament. I am psyched. You should be psyched too. But when we come back, we finally break down and succumb to the men's basketball. We're giving you a preview with exclusive footage, kind of. Go Explorers also took some too, but we had Steven Silvestro sitting under the hoop with the camera. So we'll see you around, or soon.
Hey, I'm Eddie Dunn, host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. Did you know that LaSalle TV is an entirely student-run organization? Probably, right? Do you also know that I happen to know all of the words to Eminem's Rap God? It's crazy, right? It's like 6 minutes. I'm not gonna do it here, but just trust me that I know the words.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show, Flip.
I gotta keep up, so news you can use has to be my favorite.
I love LaSalle sports, so SportsLine is my favorite TV show.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show with the psychology department, Relationships 101.
I love Backstage Pass. It's my favorite show.
We love LaSalle TV.
Sports Talk Philadelphia.
Q&A, I love that show.
It's gotta be LaSalle TV News.
I love LaSalle TV.
Back, and now we've been avoiding this for weeks, and the pull of college basketball has simply become too strong for us weak sports side anchors. So now, let's talk basketball. Selena, are you ready?
I'm born ready for this. I'm so ready.
All right. So you know what? First thing I want to talk about is probably the most talked about player, one of the most talked about players in the Big Five right now. We're calling this the JP update. Please, let's bring in what he did against Carleton. So, as you can kind of see, Jordan Price kind of came into the game pretty late, but immediately scored a 3 right off the bat. Kind of like, you know, just him making a statement. Right here again, if you look at the scoreboard right behind him, 3. And basically for Jordan Price to come in, what's so interesting is that, you know, he's coming in with 19.2 points per game. He was 3rd in Atlantic 10, but versus Carleton, you definitely see him taking a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, dishing he has so many more people that he can now rely on, that he can really open things up. So this totally has me psyched up to see him not only just, you know, shooting, but then also getting the chance to pass it on.
And I read an article in CSN. He's ranked 4th out of 15 players and coaches in the City 6. He's up there with Jay Wright. He's one of the top guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This brings me then to BJ Johnson. And so if we can roll tape, we got a redshirt junior from Syracuse, and he has been extremely talked about. And right here, we now have a big man we can count on. And you know what? He is kind of like the yang to Jordan Price's yang. You know, they're kind of like opposite guards, also plays a bit of forward. But the thing is that is crazy is that we're finally seeing a physical presence who has the height, has the weight, and it can also shoot. And the thing that is blowing me away is just getting to watch how him and Jordan Price are interacting, while also how he's interacting. He scored 18 points on the game.
Right. He's coming in from Syracuse, and he's already beginning to prove himself here.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm really excited to see kind of how it plays out. And now Yevgen, you know, he is our import. You know, he only came in for a little bit, but he is still definitely a physical player to have down low. And after, you know, getting that experience in the A10 last year, and you can kind of see, as soon as he came in, he immediately just physical, went to the hoop, nails the free throws. And the thing is, he kind of comes in as a really good supplement to just be playing smart. You're going to see right here, this is the classic Yevgen move. Takes a look, oh wait, oh, not this one. It's the next one, my bad. But the thing is you see right here, dishes over, takes a look, and then goes for his classic reverse. And you know what? He's about the fundamentals. He's about playing smooth. But the thing is, he is still a physical presence, and I'm really excited to see how he starts to get utilized. And he has, if you look here, a .649 for field goal percentage from the field. Now he's getting some consistency. So, yeah. And what about Coach G? What's the deal?
Coach G is so excited for this season. I spoke with him earlier, a few weeks ago, and he is totally emotionally preparing this team as well as physically. They had a new training regimen during the off season, and so they're preparing differently than they normally would, and he thinks the system is working. And obviously last season was not the best for LaSalle, but he is not trying to focus on last season. He's trying to focus on this season, and there's a lot of big games coming up, especially the Villanova game in December, so be sure to look for that.
I know. I think it's really interesting, though, his whole his point of view on this. Like, with all these different players, we could definitely see some movement. And this kind of brings us to my final point, is defense. And I think this is going to be the key, though, for the Explorers. And right off the bat, you're seeing we now have Demetrius Henry, we have B.J. Johnson, we have these guys who now can step up and really play some serious defense. We're seeing rebounds that we would have normally never gotten. And right here, you see us grabbing that rebound. Amar Stooks running it down the court. He's one of the fastest players. And then just dishing off to Jordan Price, who can get to an outside lane and nail that three. And I think that's something that we really have not had the opportunity to have. Like other than when we used to have Jarrell Wright on the team, who not only did he provide a lot of weight and aggression, especially down low, but now we have a couple of guys that we can rely on. Right. And so it's got me really, really excited. And right here, putting pressure on Carleton, if we can continue to make this as pressure-filled as possible and playing as fast defense as possible, it's got me excited.
It's so exciting to see them play this season.
Yeah. And so this brings us, though, to the women's basketball preview. And now this is something that I'm really interested in because we have some players that I think are kind of reaching a point where they could make a statement.
Micaiah Owens, Amy Griffin. I think Coach Jeff Williams is so excited about the team he's got to work with this year, and I think it's going to be great to look forward to see what they're providing for us.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. And especially even Jasmine Alston and seeing where she's at this season, it's got me really, really psyched up. But the thing that's going to be challenging is that the A10 is so competitive anyway. And we just need to make sure that we are as tight-knit as possible. But yeah. So there is plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week. And so let's highlight the games ahead. Take it away, Selena.
Cross country winds down by sending runners to the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional on Friday, October 11th. Last year, Fran Ferruzzi clinched a top 50 finish. For the women, Morgan Zeckley topped the board in 8th place, and Explorer Athlete of the Month, Caitlin Pose, took 54th. And then women's basketball kicks off their season Friday, November 11th at home against Lafayette before meeting up with Inner City Temple on Monday. And for the men, the team is also preparing for a matchup against Temple on Friday. Steven Sylvester gives you everything you need to know before I offer my commentary in this week's Picks of the Week. Let's go.
Hello, I'm Steven Silvestro, here to bring you this week's marquee matchup. The men's basketball game against Temple on Friday, November 11th. This is the team's first game of the season against their hometown rivals, the Temple Owls. LaSalle is coming off an exhibition game against Carleton. The last time the Explorers faced Temple was last season when they lost to the Owls 62-49 on January 20th at the Palestra. Last season, the Explorers had a rough season, finishing with a record of 9-22. Temple, on the other hand, had an overall record of 21-12 last season. A key player in this game for the Explorers is, of course, redshirt senior Jordan Price. Last season, Price scored a team-high 596 points, averaging 19.2 points per game in 31 starts. In LaSalle's recent exhibition game against Carleton, Price scored 23 points and had 11 rebounds coming off the bench. Price needs to step up big for the Salle Explorers in the season opener, just like he did against the preseason game against Carleton. Another key player for the blue and gold is redshirt senior Cleon Roberts. Roberts scored the second most points for the Explorers last season, racking up 400 points in 31 starts, which averaged out to 12.9 points per game. The redshirt senior also led the team in steals, with a total of 60 last season, averaging 1.9 steal per game. One key to the game that will help the Explorers beat the Temple Owls is to turn over the ball less. Last season, the blue and gold did not perform as well as they expected to, and that is partially because of their frequent turnovers. As a team, the Explorers averaged 12.8 turnovers per game. Though Jordan Price is the standout star for the Explorers, he averaged, personally, a team-high 3.3 turnovers per game for a total of 102 turnovers in 31 games last season. If the blue and gold can possess the ball, they have a better chance of beating the Temple Owls. Another key to the game is to play as a team. LaSalle has a lot of talented players, so there is a lot of competition in the backcourt for minutes. Despite this, the Explorers need to overcome their individualistic mindset to have more playing time and focus on winning as a team. If they play together, they can win together. Be sure to catch the men's basketball team's first game of the season against Temple, which will be broadcasted on ESPN News on Friday, November 11th at 7 p.m. It will be a great matchup between two Big Five rivals as the Explorers kick off their season. For SportsLine, I'm Steven Silvestro.
Awesome. Steve, he was awesome. But now, let's talk about me. So this brings us to my favorite segment, Picks of the Week. Take it away, please. Yes. All right, we're going to go pick number one. I'm excited. Men's soccer versus Rhode Island on November 10th for the A10 tourney win. You know what I'm talking about? We got that fat momentum. We ousted St. Joe's in possibly the most insane comeback we ever seen in the A10. We broke St. Joe's. They're like in third to last place. Then we friggin' beat UMass. And you know what? I don't know. But now we go into play against Rhode Island, and I don't think we're going to take this lightly. You know, we could get complacent. We beat them 2-1 earlier in the season. But you know what? Matt Robinson still has the potential to be on. Sixtus, Coleman Kennedy, Johnny Ciarlanti, they're all ripping shots. And then Mike Kirk is playing lights out, and it has me excited.
That shutout win at the end of the season against UMass, that gave them such a lift because it ranked them at third. It ranked them higher than they would have been. So now they're going to face Rhode Island, who's 4-6 in their last 10 games. And they beat them early in this season. So there's that precedent
exactly.
already. And let's not sleep. You mentioned Coleman Kennedy. Let's not sleep on him because he's tied for goals with Matt Robinson this year. He's really been producing a lot later in the second half of the season, and it's really showing.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, you're seeing we've been 5-1 in the past couple games. That's potential. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere, but who knows? But yeah, I'm excited. You should be excited too. And that brings me to pick number two: men's basketball versus Temple on Friday, November 11th. And I'm calling for a win, but I'm scared, just a little bit scared, because Temple gets the hype. And you know what? The thing is, Temple is now in the same position that we were in a couple years ago. They have basically all freshman guards, you know, and they have promise, but they're still a young team. And the thing is, we have Jordan Price, and now we also have BJ Johnson, who are going to be taking on these young guards that have endless amounts of experience. And you know what? I think that these transfers are going to just be playing a major part in this game. And you know what? And if Stooks can play that scrappy control defense, and Yevgen plays rough down low, and Cleon shows his age and maturity in taking his shots, we can take down those Broad Street dinguses.
Well, we lost to Temple last year at the Palestra, but I think this is going to be our revenge game. I think they're ready to win this year, and they're really upset about last year, so they're ready to come back and dominate. And I think it's going to start with Temple.
Exactly, and really, they are a young team. And as I was reading about the Explorers, like in terms of where LaSalle is at, right now we are considered the biggest mystery in the A10. Nobody knows how this hodgepodge team is going to kind of go together. We got people from Philly, we have people from Memphis, we have people from Florida that like all these transfers, I am very intrigued to see just how this played out. And kind of as we were just kind of talking about earlier, there's going to be a lot of fluidity this year, and I honestly have no idea who's going to be like our big standout stars. you know,
There's so much talent on this team, it's too early to predict.
Pookie Powell. I'm excited. Pookie Powell playing some fast defense, making some clutch plays. Kind of reminds me of another like Tamir Amar Stukes, except maybe with a bit more depth. But yeah. And that brings me to pick number 3. And that is men's swimming versus Delaware and Ryder on Saturday, November 12th. And you know what? The thing is, our relays, we're looking fast. 200 free, 400 medley, 200 medley. Those are all led by some LaSalle stalwarts. You know, you got Cameron Fadley, you got Jakub Bartoszewicz, you got Fabian Bergman, and on top of that, young guns like Sam Otatala are doing good things for the pool. And for the wins to happen, though, we need Gleness to keep his control over the distance, and Otatala really needs to take more wins in the 50 free and really just start to just run with it. The thing is, Ryder is very, very scary. They are undefeated so far. You know what? We took the L a couple weeks, like in the opening meet against one of the teams that we played, but the thing is, I'm not so worried about Delaware. They're kind of just drifting. But what do you think?
I think with a lot of these guys like Jakub Bartoszewicz and Fabian Bergman, you have a lot of great talent on this team, and they can compete, and they are here to compete. And also, don't count out diving. Diving has Dylan Urasets, who has swept almost every event, every 1 meter and 3 meter event that he's participated in this year. So don't count out the diving team either.
Exactly. I know, I always forget about that, but the thing is, you got Dylan Urasets and you also have Chase Ott. And those are 2 guys that have really, you know, proven themselves over the years. And the thing is, especially with the swimming team, I'm hoping, and actually just the entire team is just a collective, is if they can all stay mentally afloat. That's going to be the key. And especially with, you know, Jakub Bartoszewicz and a lot of these guys that are coming from like these European countries and everything, I've noticed that they're the ones who have been struggling the most mentally over the course of their entire career. It's just seeing how long, you know, they can keep like the momentum going, get into the A10 and do well. So I'm excited, but I'm going to call for 2 wins because, yeah, I don't like Ryder.
Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it to see the marquee matchup, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian.
And also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Steven and our SportsLine team, I'm Selena BMac.
And I'm Jake Smolinski. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game. Very